Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat, Miami Heat. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, we have the reality check master, Tiffany Meeks.
What's up, guys?
Feeling good after a Game 2 win in Denver. We're going to get into everything that means and what we felt about the game. But also, with me today, the great Siobhan. Bon, how we feeling on this wonderful Monday, June 5th?
This is fantastic. I feel great game. It's been a great day. I was off today. About to cook once we get out of here. It's been great.
Listen, let's get right into it because Miami went and did something this postseason that hadn't been done yet. They went into Denver and they won a game. They did so with a fourth quarter that was scorching. It was really the story of the season, of the ultimate progression to the mean, where all these shooters who had, I think we know them to be good shooters, had struggled all year, made us think that they weren't good shooters anymore, and they come this playoff guns blazing and they all look great. They all look good again. Tiff's making faces at me. I think some of us lost a little faith in some of the guys. I think it was a little confusing all season, and I don't want to relitigate the season, but I think watching guys that I was like, I know Max Strus is a good shooter, but now I'm doubting a little bit. I know Duncan's a good shooter, but what's going on? This is the games are adding up, and they go into that building. They take a game that nobody had done yet. LeBron and Anthony Davis did not do that. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant did not do that. And to be honest with you, Jimmy and Bam didn't really do it either. It was Bam and Gabe and Duncan. You know what I mean? So let's start, Tiff, let's start there, and let's kind of go through the game. Max comes out like a bat out of hell. He's coming off of double staggers, pin downs, and they made it a point to get Michael Porter running after dudes. And he was lost, botched switches, weird double teams that were ill-advised early in the clock, and Max was floating around, hitting everything, and that was the tone setter. Tiff cannot hear you. I think you're muted. I think your mic's muted. Bon, while Tiff figures out her audio, what did you think about kind of their start with Strus?
Yeah, well, you give a lot of credit to, all the people that we typically give credit to. The shooter for continuing to put up shots, understanding his importance and what it is that he's supposed to be doing here. Tiff, if you back, just jump in. And then to Jimmy, to Bam, to Spo, to the cast, and continuing to make sure that the shooters who struggled continue to feel comfortable to go into these shots. But to come off of the actions, to come off of that baseline out of bounds, and just come off that double kind of wide pin down and just step into it, knock it down like that. That takes incredible, kind of resolve and mental fortitude, and just a mentality to really relinquish whatever the past struggles are, to just kind of forge ahead, as what we were talking about, the three of us backstage a bit, and then from there, just all of the slip actions. The first one on the left side, him coming up, setting the screen, slipping the screen. They had two to the ball. He's wide open in the right corner. They ran a different. There you go. They ran a different variation of the slip and got Max something on the right side. So just the movement, the readiness, and just getting into what it is that he do. Go ahead, Tiff.
Ooh, where was I? Oh, I was starting with Michael Porter. No, because it's interesting, because I will say he is a better defender than he was in the past. Like, I will give him that credit. He does look better than he did last year. But I think the thing about it is, for me, when I watch him, you want to get him in the actions. You want to force him to have to move all over the court, because I notice he's very good in a standstill position. But if he has to lay chase to somebody, he'll easily get caught up on any kind of screen, any kind of stagger, because he doesn't really want to fight through these things. And that's just my perspective. And I could be wrong for what I'm watching, but his physicality isn't that type of physicality where he's going to chest to chest and try to bump his way or even kind of spin and get off people and try to stay with his man. Like, I don't think that's something that he likes to do. So I think getting him on any of the shooters is the best thing that you could possibly do, because he's going to get lost in all the screens and all the chaos that's happening. As far as Max is concerned, I wasn't worried. And I think I said it to you, Bond. I was like, all right, it's done. Like that game one is done. He'll be better tomorrow, because that's just it's because you couldn't
What
get
has
any
to
worse.
happen?
Right. Like you couldn't get any worse. Like you were 0-4. So it doesn't matter.
Literally
Exactly.
0-4.
But
Nothing worse.
he couldn't get worse. But I think that the thing that I like about him is that he knows I'm still shooting the next one. And Spo wants me to shoot the next one. And the guys have confidence in him to shoot the next one. So I think it's just it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he spent a lot of the season looking like dog shit. Like, we're not gonna act like it wasn't true. Like he did. But I always knew whatever we saw last season, it's still there. It's still in there. You sometimes you have to, and this is just with life. Sometimes you got to be broken all the way down to get built all the way back up. And I think with Max, especially with Duncan this season, I think those two things happened to both of them, that they reached enormous highs in the last couple of years, but this past season they've both saw incredible lows. And I think it kind of was able to balance them both out. So now, one, they don't take it for granted when they're on the court. Like they're given 110%. And two, they know everyone on that bench, everyone higher up, they have their back. And I think that's a big thing.
Can I say one thing to that, G? I know you got to hop in here. I think we're tired of hearing about like the undrafted rhetoric at this point, but there is something to that strength, Tiff, to that fortitude, and being able to be broken down and know how to climb yourself back up.
Right.
These aren't guys that were highly touted. These aren't guys that were coming into the league, silver spooning it. And so the struggle or the fight to get what they want has always kind of had to been something that they've done. And so, but it's a different level. I think it's an additional level to have gotten there, seen like pretty quick, like flash success, and then be brought back down to then have, so like it's just some of the resolve and that kind of undrafted mentality, I think, is what you see shining through in the cast like that.
Well, like, and I think that's Bon and Tiffany, what you guys are saying is like, that's why they've really taken to this like beauty in the struggle kind of mentality. Like they say that quote a lot. I know that Duncan had kind of said as much, literally verbatim, right? Like they find, I guess they find purpose in that. And I think it fuels them in a lot of ways. And we're going to get into some of the extra nerd stuff, but I totally agree with you. Real quick, chat. We got Heat Lifer in chat saying, is this live or pre-recorded? We're live, baby. We're always live.
Baby, we live, now. Baby. Come on, baby.
Twitch.
You know here?
Right.
Live.
Listen, a lot of new faces, guys. Listen.
Hey to you guys.
Yeah.
The finals
Take your
run,
shoes off. Stay a while.
Come stay. The refreshments in the back, culture on the side. But no, for real. Thank you to everybody who's new and who tunes in. It means a lot to us, and we're very happy to have anybody along. Listen, these kinds of runs make new fans. And these kinds of runs introduces, our existing fans to a lot of new people. So welcome, as we say around these parts.
Welcome.
And if you're listening on the pod, remember, you can watch this live on twitch.tv/Miami Heatbeat. So, getting back to the next to the no stuff. So I liked them going at Porter, not just in pick and roll, not just with Jimmy, but like, hey, let's move him. Let's move him around. It's kind of a holdover from game one, but they did a great job of where Bam was off ball in actions. If he's not screening, they're not putting him in the dunker spot. They're putting him on the wing or in the corner. And why that's important is because they can flip the action to swing it to him. And even though he's not a shooter, that guy in the corner is now going to come off a handoff, which makes Jokic have to run up, right? So now you're moving Jokic from, north-south. You're moving him. And I think this is a series. They don't play one game. They play a series.
Right.
And you want to wear him down. You want to wear the Nuggets down. And I think that's a bit of a diabolical wrinkle by Spo. And it's a page out of Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors. It's like, Draymond's not the best shooter, but what we're going to do is we're going to make him a passer and a handoff guy with our shooters. And we know that you need a guy to send up at the level or to hard double or to send two at that guy coming off the handoff. And it's hurt Denver. And Miami got a lot of good looks off that in game 1. And that continued in game 2. And I think that is one of the most new things about their offense this series. And it just kind of credit to Spo for, keep doing shit.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's fun. You have to have a coach who can implement all these schemes, but then in turn, you still have to have the players who can produce this out on the court. It's interesting because I know during the season, a lot of us were just like, what is Spo doing? We can't believe this. Why is he playing this guy? This combination isn't working. And I think the thing about it is, it's like now when I take a step back and I see how they're playing in the finals, everything had a purpose. Every grouping that he put on the court together, whether it was successful or not, there was a purpose, because now when you're looking at these lineups, you say, oh, okay, he instead of having this guy, he put this guy. Even sans Tyler, because Tyler's not with us playing as of yet. So even while it's killing us, even like the Zeller minutes, like all of these things are purposeful. Like, even though we don't like it, there's a reason why he keeps playing him. And it all just kind of falls back into Spo actually knows more than most of us when it comes to his team.
He's forgotten more about basketball than we'll ever know.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, quick aside, I saw a lot of people moralizing on what Spo said to Ramona in the press conference yesterday, where Ramona asked Spo a question about.
It's because it was Ramona.
Well,
It's because it's a woman that people care.
Well, I mean, Ramona. I want to say, like, Ramona's a pro. Ramona's been in this.
Right.
So for context, Ramona Shelburne of ESPN asked Spo about making Jokic a scorer, about that being a strategy, and Spo kind of rebutted at that and referred to her and other media members as, quote, the untrained eye, which was one of the fucking funniest and most savage things I've ever heard.
Right.
And I saw people like more, and I was like, listen, I guarantee you Ramona is not pressed. That woman A, she can take care of herself. She doesn't need you being mad on her behalf. B, listen, we've all covered Spo enough. We've heard what Spo does to Troppy Baby. Spo only likes Brady. We've been known. And Spo even texted her and apologized. Right? So, like, she said on I think it was Get Up or Malika show.
Yeah, she said that he apologized.
That apology was too much. That was unnecessary.
It was, and that's because like the media know. But I'm just like,
and that's why.
Like listen. I have a lot of respect for Eric Koreen of The Athletic. I read his stuff. I love his stuff. I've listened to him on pods. He's a great reporter. Come on, guys. Like, coaches, Pop's been doing this forever.
Right.
Spo does it. Just like, don't be. This is the NBA Finals. Don't be so pressed.
It's also like, we also have to remember the human element of what we're watching. They literally just came off the court. He literally just finished coaching a game where, hell, I mean, they dragged it out and pulled it out literally at the last second. Like, there's also a human element that comes with all these things. Like, he's allowed to be generally frustrated with the reporters. I mean, if you got half of the dumbass questions that he gets about his team, at some point you're gonna pop off. You know what? And he didn't even let's be real. He could have let her have it. He didn't even really pop off.
And like, Tiff, for me, if I'm the coach of a team playing against a 2-time MVP, especially in the aggregate era of NBA Central or whoever kind of picking shit up out of context, if I'm Spo, I don't want anything that I say to be construed as disrespect to a team that has been very respectful and complimentary of the Heat, right? Like, Michael Malone runs a tight ship, and those guys are like even Aaron Gordon. I saw Aaron Gordon's like, man, Jimmy's going to be the toughest guy I face. That guy just played Kevin Durant. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, so I think that they're being very careful with their words. And I thought Spo was put into a position where he didn't want to say, hey, we're going to get into why I don't really agree with that they made Jokic a scorer. But I thought it was like Spo kind of deflecting a little bit and also being like, that's also not what happened. Bon, what were you going to say?
Right.
Oh, I genuinely don't remember. I think that was a bit overblown. And like Tip said, like the questions that they get, just a lot of the frustrations, I guess, with some of the landscape of hoops media. Just that it doesn't feel, I don't know, I guess as thorough or as
Right.
with the depth that maybe it could. So they do get a lot of like really kind of like not even superficial, but very just like maybe rudimentary questions sometimes. And like you said, he just came out of this like high pressurized situation. They
Right.
barely got it out. Like I'm trying to. He
Right.
knows he has the media, obligation, but I think it was overblown, and
Right.
that apology was generous. But I'm not surprised.
So
Right.
let's talk about the way they defended Jokic now that we got
Mm-hmm.
the cultural stuff out of the way.
Cool.
I listened to a little bit of. I don't like to listen to too many pods before I do my own because I don't want to steal or like that color the way I view things. But I listened to a little of Dunker Spot at the gym today because we all know we love what Nikias and Steve have to say, and I absolutely agreed with what Nikias said today about kind of quote unquote making Jokic a scorer. Miami did a better job on Aaron Gordon, on Jamal Murray cutting. They did a better job of kind of keeping those easy assists off the table for Jokic, where like Aaron Gordon gets a seal on Gabe Vincent, Jokic at the top of the key or at the elbow. That's an easy pass over the top of a smaller Gabe for Aaron Gordon. Or it's like Jamal Murray, there's a botch switch between Jimmy and Max, and then Jamal Murray is cutting behind them or through the middle, or like weird stuff in transition where Caleb kind of doesn't pick up the ball, pick up the man with the ball. And it's like little mistakes, and I talked about it on my film pod, and I tweeted a thread about it. It's Nikias. Hi, Nikias joins us. I'm actually talking about what you and Steve were talking about on Dunker Spot, how, the things that Miami did off ball on Jokic kind of prevented a lot of those easy assists. And, I do think that there was some emphasis on, hey, like with the zone, like Jokic is going to be more of a scorer at times, or like, given the single coverage that he sees a lot because they're not like hard doubling or whatever. But Bon, I totally disagreed with that notion of like they've made Jokic a scorer. I just thought that like they did a better job on those little margins around the ball, and that kind of resulted in fewer assists and,
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that they made Jokic a score. So, and hey, Nikias, so much so that they limited the scoring opportunities for the rest of his cast, and if that is some de facto making him the scorer, then okay, sure.
Right.
It wasn't, they just like left shit wide open for him to kind of operate the way that he wanted to and just stumble into stuff. I agree, they were a lot what felt like cleaner, and they're like shrinking, and then they're recovering out, their digs have been a lot better, and then the addition of Kevin to the starting lineup, replacing Caleb, allowing G, you talked about it on Hot yesterday. We all kind of assumed that playing Kevin meant that you'd probably match Kevin with Nikola, and they didn't do that. They kept Bam as his primary defender a lot. Jimmy did a good job, a very good job on Jamal. That guy's been hobbled offensively, but he's been like really clean for the most part and like really neat. And like some of his closeout work, his cushioning work, navigating the screens and stuff. And so I really agree with that notion from Nikias. I know we're going to keep talking about the defense here, but to the point. So I think one of you guys made a little bit ago about like how they use Bam. Just using him like motion wise, kind of in the handoff stuff, knowing that they have that drop space, knowing that, okay, whoever's coming off, you have some room to operate, either pull, boogie, break it down, or get to some other stuff. I wanted to slide that in before I kind of forgot it, but I agree in the way that they've been defending, or at least the way that they defended Nikola yesterday. And they got caught sometimes too, like that pass to Aaron Gordon kind of on the baseline. Nikola was at the key, and the lob, they were like, "Oh my gosh, he passed it out." I'm like, "No, he didn't. He saw that he had that the whole time. But as he's backing down, he sees him, and so like gets into the move as a bit of a fake, and then so like there were places where they, they're still, but you're never gonna be perfect. But I thought the game plan was intentional and really well executed.
Tiff, like they, if I'm the Heat, obviously I don't think they have a solution for Jokic. They don't have
there is no solution.
They just don't have the personnel, and even with personnel, it's hard. I mean, there's no solution to LeBron James. There's no solution to the guys of that caliber on offense. Like they're too good.
That caliber and that size.
Even Luka, like
size.
The size, the passing,
But it's the whole thing, G. One is never gonna beat five. Like it's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
I was a fan of let Bam just guard him straight up, because what it also does is it forces their other players to have to get offense, to have to try to get their own offense if he's not spoon feeding them every other possession. And I liked it. I like the fact that, because now it's mano a mano. Jamal's gonna have to go against Jimmy. And you're going to have to do all you can to get this bucket, because Jimmy's going to be that force of resistance. So how is that going to play out? And as you saw, like we were even talking about Michael Porter Jr., him having to do certain things was not helpful for them, because they've become accustomed to getting that spoon-fed pass, getting that I'm just going to cut back door and here it is. They weren't getting those easy looks, because if they can't shake their defender, what's going to happen? I got the ball. I got to try and score because nobody else is getting it. And that's literally what it was. They forced him to be the scorer? No, but also common sense told him if no one else is scoring, somebody has to. That's just
if
the
they
way
wanted
it works.
him to be a scorer, they wouldn't front him as often as they do. Which I'm very surprised, guys, how often they still fronted. Because I thought early they fronted, and Denver just kind of drove down the middle, or just kind of was able to get the ball over. Like I thought Denver early in game one did a really good job of like beating the front, and you watch from the regular season, they were just good all year at it. And
but look at how they were fronting him in game one. It wasn't like aesthetic. It didn't look right. Like even Gabe, when he was trying to front, Gabe didn't have his legs under him. His base wasn't strong. He wasn't positioned well to even try to do that. But it seemed like in game two, I mean, Gabe didn't get caught out there that many times, but he just looked stronger in his stance. He looked stronger trying to get around. Like it was like little noticeable things.
I agree, and like they did it with Bam more, which I think's good, and I thought they did a better job of pressuring the pass, because really the best defense against Jokic is not letting Jokic get the ball, right? Yeah. Like your best option, the way he can't score is he doesn't get. It's kind of like how like a football game is. It's like the best defense against a great quarterback is like running the ball and like draining the clock so that they don't get the ball back. It's like Tom Brady gets the ball back with 45 seconds. Like too much time. You know what I mean? Like you want to prevent Jokic from doing that. And listen, Denver had 23 assists to Miami's 28. I think that's a winning formula if you are moving the ball better, because a lot of times like Jokic can get the ball and maybe he doesn't get the initial assist, but it's like swing, because they do get a ridiculous kind of points per possession off of his post-ups. He's still a menace, when he gets the ball. Even if the guy a pass away is rotated out to, Denver makes you make 3, 4, 5, 6 rotations. They just keep playing up until the clock is over. Miami and Denver are, I think, really similar in that sense.
Similar, yeah.
They're like, we will fucking find some shit. If there's one on the clock, we're going, because, we're not chucking a shot that we don't like until we absolutely have to. And, credit to Denver for, still posting, I know that Miami's limiting them on offense, quote unquote. Miami shot the fucking hell out of the ball to win that game, but some of the
posting stuff too is where they are establishing themselves in the front. Like the one that I feel like I remember you talk, or that I think you're referencing when you talked about Gabe Tiff. Not only was he like not, pretty solid in his base or what have you, the front was also like too far up the lane. So one, if you don't have the ball pressure, then it's
Yes.
a easier target, but there's more space than behind him to try to get that pass in
Right.
there. A lot
Yep.
of the good fronting that they did last night, however they were able to catch him, they were managing to front him fairly low in his post, like fairly close to the block. And so now they know that they have this weak side person who um they can't fully commit to that drop, to that help, but that space to get the ball. Like, I know he's massive, but that's still
Right.
a more narrow window to get the ball between the target hand and the
Right.
rim. And
Right.
so it kind of helps your help a bit too. But again, like having some more size and just more force. They played with more
Mm-hmm.
force too, so they
Yep.
they were better able to push around.
Last thing on Miami's defense, because really this was more of an offensive contest than anything. I like that they were less conservative with Bam's drop on Murray. That was one of my kind of things looking at game two, looking at game
Yeah.
one, where I just didn't listen. I think there's a place for the deep drop. I think there's a utility for it, and I think that there are certain kinds of players that you can do it against. I think Jamal Murray is not one of those guys. I think when you let him walk into pull-ups at the elbow, you got to
Yeah.
rethink your strategy. And I understand that you're scared of Jokic rolling in that situation, but I think Miami did a really good job of putting Bam closer to the level and then making sure that they made that pass really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And they made
Mm-hmm.
sure that the
Yeah.
help on the back was there. And part of doing that to Murray is how Jokic ends up, with 41. He gets better catches on the roll. You send the help. There's a small. You got to send a second. Boom, boom.
Right.
All that stuff that we know.
Yeah.
But I just think it's more important that you don't let Jamal Murray get comfortable because Jokic is comfortable in everything. That man will be comfortable in the depths of hell, as long as he has a basketball and a guy that's cutting. If you're Miami, you gotta. I don't want to call Murray the head of the snake, because that's just not true. But
Yeah.
certainly that guy is too dangerous. He's too
Right.
hot coming off that Lakers series to let him walk into pull-ups at the elbow. Because
Right.
then what you do is now you get going from three. Now you're comfortable. And dude, that guy had a good game. He had 18 and 10 assists and like 6 rebounds or something. And he shot like pretty decent from the field and hit a lot of threes. And I mean, nearly tied the game. I mean, that was a really, really good look that he got up against Jimmy, who like barely got off the ground there. He had 18, 4, and 10 on 46, almost 47% shooting, with one turnover. So I mean, it's pretty damn good for Jamal Murray.
He got going late though. His first
Yeah.
basket was in the second quarter.
Yeah, but I mean, great
Yeah.
players do that. You do a good
Yep.
job on a great
Yep.
player,
Yep.
and they burn
Yep.
you.
They
But
figure it out.
Eventually, they're going
But
to, right?
I think that's part of like, hey, we're not giving you that easy pull up, and
Mhm.
I think Bam and they do that emergency switch pretty good when like, oh, we're gonna get beat, we got to switch, and I think he and Jimmy in particular are really, really good of knowing when that happens.
Yeah.
Tiff, I'll let you go then, Bon.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry, no.
I didn't know where we were going.
No,
No, I'm honestly amazed at the transformation from game 1 to game 2. Like I'm literally still amazed that, like, I knew they would come out better, but just overall, like, the defense is just like, I mean, it's a lot of try hard. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like they got to dig it out 100% with this team, against this team. But even just like, if you look at, I think somebody posted Jokic's numbers against Bam. He got rolling a little bit against Bam, and then it was kind of like a green light turned on with Bam. And Bam, it seemed like Bam started to figure out, okay, this is what he likes to do. This is what and Bam just he stayed with it. Like, I think we don't really talk enough about how even when things look bad, Bam does try to stay with it. And he didn't seem defeated when Jokic scored on him. Like, that's the one thing I was kind of watching to see if he could just kind of just stay in the moment. And he did. He played all the way through. Jokic had 40, 41?
41.
Yeah. And it never phased Bam. At least he never showed it. I am like, that's what I'm amazed at. The fact that he took on the challenge, went head to head, and no matter how many points was given up, he came out on top. I think that is like the one thing that like nobody really kind of talked about when it came to Bam last night.
Bonda, do you want to add anything on what they did to Murray before we change gears
No,
one more time?
no, no. Go ahead. I'm out here on what I got like 4% left.
We're moving.
3%.
Listen.
All right, let's. All right,
We're about.
all right.
We're
No, no, no,
moving.
you're
We're
right,
moving. We're
all
moving. We're Miami's
We're
offensive
moving.
transition.
I just wanted to give Bam. I just wanted to give
No,
Bam
no,
a little
no.
love.
Kevin Love's
Needed.
throwing the outlet. We're moving.
Yeah.
We're running down court.
I got it.
No.
Miami's half court offense was pretty remarkable. I think all season long, and again, a lot of this is really hot shooting, but I think it's more than that. I think it's process. I think it's deliberate. Like what we talked about, like, hey, let's get Jokic in handoff. Let's move him north south. Let's, their weak side stuff this series. I thought when they were playing the Knicks, I thought the actions they ran on the weak side were pretty fucking remarkable, and I think that they've upped that times 10 in this series, which is funny because I guess these are less advanced defenses than Milwaukee and Boston, and they are doing so many cool things, to make their guys guard in space, whether it's putting Bam on the weak side corner and then flipping it into a handoff, whether it's kind of running cutters or two-man game with a shooter and a screener, or like two guards, right, and then kind of confuse Michael Porter. Or like what Max did, like guard coming off guard screen, are we switching? Are we not? Are we doubling? And whoops, Max is in the corner wide open and stuff like that. So that's good stuff. Miami in the half court, 114 offensive rating. That is in the 93rd percentile. I don't know who you are. Who is that? They've really come back in this series to the Bam 2020 offense, but like with new stuff.
With new stuff. With other things, like in conjunction with other things.
Yeah.
You were talking about like some of the max actions. They're doing like a lot of, so they were doing like some empty side Jimmy, Kevin, two-man in some of the other series. They're doing empty side stags where they're like, either they're starting Max as the first or Kevin's at the first. Kevin's not really popping. He's like picking and slipping some, and that's stretching
their
that
shooters. They put their shooters in the stagger, and one of those guys fucking rips as soon as you come off.
Yeah.
When it's Max as the first one, he's getting his ass all the way to the corner
fast,
and they're turning the corner, or you have just two to the ball just multiple times.
That's a tough switch, Bond, because if you're that's tough because it's happening too fast.
It is, and like they did an empty side, like they had an empty side right two-man with Jimmy and Max, but it started like on the other side of the floor. They're cycling people through.
I think we lost her.
Oh no.
We lost a brave soldier.
Oh no.
Listen, rest in peace to Bonza.
Pour one out.
Pour one out. But yeah, Tiff, to close it out, we'll get to one more thing. But they've been pretty remarkable with their kind of offensive process. Right. Whether it's running the Bam stuff, whether it's Jimmy on a bad wheel, really trying. And honestly, getting to his spots and just missing because he's short.
Right.
But getting to his pull-up spots, getting to that little floater that he absolutely devastated Milwaukee with. I have really liked their offensive process, and I genuinely believe in it.
No, it looks so good. I think also because now I'm seeing all the guards get Bam going. Like they're looking for Bam. They're looking for that little pocket pass. They're looking for him for the lob. And it's not because usually it's Duncan, but now it's Gabe, now it's Max, it's also, it's Kyle. Like they're all keeping him involved on the offensive end because, we often complain, get Bam the ball, get him the ball in spots where he can score. And this is what they're doing.
The other thing is that they're surviving on the boards, which I think is important considering how much zone they play. So they were out rebounded by 7 yesterday, but in reality, like that was just not a problem in the game. They survived, and they themselves were getting, the Heat had 8 offensive rebounds, which I think is a win. I mean, Denver only had 9, so only one more offensive rebound than Miami. So they're surviving in the zone against the board on the boards. Curious to see how the zone survives. So the last thing, Sif, I want to get to is what we feel, because now Denver has the counterpunch, right? Miami moved. That's a big change. They changed their starting lineup back to what they were doing before. Denver's gonna have some things to think about right now. The one thing I thought that Miami got away with, I thought they would use Aaron Gordon as a handoff guy more to put Love in the action. So I thought they would do like Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray handoffs, because if you put Jokic on the weak side, you can do what Miami does, where you just flip that into a handoff, or just Jokic just straight up rips one from three. He's a very good shooter. And maybe that's bad, because if you're Denver, you don't want Jokic in a corner being a spacer. That's like a blatant misuse of his power. But also, I think if you're Denver, you really want to make sure that Miami gets punished for playing Love. So I think that's an interesting balance. I know one way is like, okay, well, they could just run 4-5 pick and roll, right? Just do, a little 2011 Lakers, Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum, right? But I don't know. I think that's also like a switch, so it's not too bad anyway. And then, whatever, you waste clock doing that.
Right.
I think that's one thing that Denver left on the table a little bit, just kind of putting Love in those isolated handoffs, and I expect to see maybe a little bit more of that.
Well, I mean, if you're smart, you do it. You got to. He's the weakest link on the defensive end, right? So you got to do that. But I mean, I think the idea is that we see, obviously, if it's not working, Spo has other people now he can try to go to. So it's not, if it's not working, obviously, Caleb will get minutes, or Highsmith can get some minutes and come in. So there are other options that if you see they're starting to take advantage of Kevin Love. I think, though, like, the funniest thing is that Kevin Love is just playing. Like, there's no
playing.
must. There's no muss, no fuss. Like, he was just out there just doing his thing. Listen, I appreciate it, but we also know he is slow of foot. So, you see what happens. But I feel like they've done the same thing Spo's done. They've watched the video and they've decided, all right, this is what we're gonna do. And I expect to see a lot more from Aaron Gordon. So
just make him a playmaker. Kind of punish Love for being on the floor, because really that's what the playoffs are all about. Like, how can I punish you guys? I would like to see Miami attack Murray a little more. I like how they attacked Porter.
Yeah. I was saying that in the chat last night. I said, I can't believe no one is going at him. And then there was like 3 possessions where I saw people go at him, and literally it was right past him to the basket.
So I think that they want to make an emphasis of putting Jokic in the pick and roll, which I don't disagree with. I just disagree with a little bit of the rotation right now, because Jimmy and Jokic get rest at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I've been saying I think Bam and Jokic should get rest at the same time. And I think you should want Jimmy to match up with the Jamal plus bench minutes, because that's a way smaller lineup. And I think there's less to bother Jimmy. And if you kind of, because Gordon's going to be on him, which means that you might be able to get away with Zeller on a smaller guy, which might help him in pick and roll. I don't want Zeller to play. We all know he's going to play. So we just got to live with it and kind of adjust around it. Okay. It is what it is. Cause they're just whatever. They're just not doing what I want, but pivot. I didn't watch Friends. I only know that one joke.
Okay, good.
And I know Ross is an asshole. That's the other Friends thing I know. So I think that's kind of Tiff. That's where I am for the series. Those are my feelings.
Do the Heat win tomorrow?
It's between God, Eric Spoelstra, and Mikey Malone. I don't know. I really don't know, because this is a series that I don't, and I said the other day, I said after game 3, we're going to have a good grasp on the series. I think we're still in that feel it out phase, which is huge that Miami got one game, because, you don't want to know what you're doing in game 3 and then it's too late. You got a game, and now I think when game 4 tips off, we are going to be a lot more comfortable knowing where the games are going to go. I think there's going to be way less cards to play. Because once you reach game 6, that's usually like, all right, the hand's here, you know? So we're getting close to, and also as the series goes on, we get closer and closer to 44 minutes. Bam. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which, great. Cody, awesome. But, I saw a video today that the Theragun was this season. It feels like forever ago.
This was a long ass season.
Tiff,
this was a long ass
and that was
season.
In the middle of it where fucking Deadman hits the fucking table and that shit fucking flies. What a season. Guys, on Wednesday.
Look at us now.
Look at us now. Tiff, on Wednesday, the Miami Heat are going to play a finals game in their arena for the first time since 2014. They didn't have home games in the bubble.
No.
That crowd is going to be awesome. 8:30 start. You know they're going to be there. This is a crowd that needs a little bit of an 8:30 start. We all happy hour a little too long. Listen, as we all know, Miami, we have run on Miami time, but 8:30 starts, they get there on time. And excited to cover a finals, Tiff. Excited to be here. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No. It's just enjoy it. Regardless of the outcome, just enjoy it.
I have so much fear.
I know you do.
Chat's asking me to Sage. You guys lost Sage privileges. Yeah. I Sage against my better judgment. Game 6, and they lost, and everybody blamed me. And
they don't need it.
You're not getting Sage anymore. They don't need it. They're good. The vibes are good right now.
Yeah.
The vibes are good, and everyone was fucking mean to me after I Saged. Because, they lost, and then my mentions were on fire, and I had to mute the tweet. You can all go to hell. We don't need Sage. They're fine. The Sage got them here. The rest is in their hands. I will be at the Big Face pop-up on Wednesday at the Belize apartment complex thing in front of the arena. I will be there. So if you
see G, say hello.
I saw somebody said hello to Moose at La Carreta, which is the funniest place to see Moose. If you knew what La Carreta was, Tiff, it is an age-old Cuban establishment where all the old Cubanitos go and get their 4 p.m. coffee. And I imagine Moose leaving work, going to get his little cafecito, and some guy just yells, "Drip drop," and Moose is confused as to what's happening, which is really funny.
Although I do kind of see Moose in that type of place.
No, listen, Moose is Cuban. That's his environment. Moose grew up in La Carretas. Podium 23 says, "Love the podcast, Tiff. Amazing work, guys." Remember, we're gonna have a donation link this week for our Pride Drive, but you can go to shop.miamiheatbeat.com and you could buy a Pride shirt, and all proceeds 100% of any Pride shirt you buy. 100%, because we have quite a few.
Any Pride merch
on the Miami Heat Beat site, 100% of those proceeds goes to Trans Social, which is the organization that we're partnering, and we wanted to partner with a more local Miami organization, specifically helping the trans community, given everything that's going on in the state of Florida right now, and how that disenfranchised group of people needs the help now more than ever. So you buy a shirt, 100% of the proceeds go to them. We're going to get a download link. If you want to just go directly, you can go to Trans Social's website, and they have a PayPal. But if you do it with us, you're entered to win some prizes and some stuff come our Pride stream. We're going to get an official date. We're kind of waiting how the finals go, because we didn't expect, full disclosure, we did not expect to be here. So that kind of threw our Pride planning for a loop. So be on the lookout at Miami Heat Beat on Twitter, at MIA Heat Beat on Twitter, for announcements on our donation link, on our drive, and all that. But you guys have come through. We've raised $12,000 the last few seasons for Pride. That is life-changing kind of money for some of these organizations that operate on the margins. Ryan Spravero says you thought he would be getting home from Cape Cod about now. No, I would be in Cape Cod right now. I would get home on Father's Day during Game 7. Which is why I'm not there. I was supposed to spend some time in New York. Tiff and I would have had a nice dinner with Brass, maybe some cocktails. Listen, as much as I want to see you, Tiff, I'm glad that we're here covering the finals. And I want to see you guys buy some shirts. I want to see donations, because the prizes are great, and you're going to love what we have cooking for the show. There's a lot of fun announcements. So celebrate Pride with us. And buy, donate, do anything that you have, if you can, if you're able. We love you guys. Thank you for our support in this community. And I will see you tomorrow. I will be potting tomorrow with a guest, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, Wednesday, pre-gaming 30 minutes before the game, and hangover time right after the series finale of the best goddamn post-game show in the world. We love you guys. See you tomorrow.